I'm Nancy Harkness, romance author, here with Writer Unedited number 71. Woohoo! I just sit at my writing desk. Nothing special except today I'm wearing a tiara. I'll tell you why in a minute. And talk about whatever's going on in my writing life and sometimes in my other life too. But I do this almost every Wednesday at 2 p.m. on Facebook. And if you happen to miss one, you can always find my previous Writer Unedited lives on my YouTube channel. I will put a link in the comments. So why am I wearing a tiara? Sally says, nice tiara. Thank you, Sally. Isn't it fun? It's stars, in case you can't see. Starry tiara. Why am I wearing a starry tiara? Well, because I feel like a star. Because I did it. I wrote my way to 30K in New Jersey Romance Writing Month. Woohoo! 30,000 more. Actually, I think I made it to 31,000 words more on Raoul's book. And since I write roughly 100,000 word books, that is almost a third of the book that I wrote in a month. Woohoo! So excited. So that's why I'm wearing my star tiara. Isn't it fun? My critique partner, Lisa, gave it to me. Lisa Verge Higgins. Thank you for the fist bump, Sally, on making it to 30K. I actually got there on Wednesday night, so I was early. 47 other writers also hit 30K by the end of February, which is what the goal of Jersey Romance Writing Month is, of course. So it was a very successful year. And since I also lead the challenge, I got to lay down my pom-poms for a while. I have to admit, I was tired. In my cheerleading pom-poms, in case you're wondering why pom-poms. Although now I'm known as the fearless leader. I used to be the head cheerleader, but for some reason, people started referring to me as fearless leader. And somebody just reminded me of where that came from, because I had kind of forgotten. Does anybody remember the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons? Well, Natasha and Boris, the bad guys, referred to their boss as fearless leader. So, unbeknownst to me, I'm actually an arch villain, which I actually kind of like. Me, the arch villain. But of course, NaNoWriMo is about as opposite of villainy as you can get, since it's an incredibly supportive month of all of us writing together and reporting in word count every day and cheering each other on. But I still like being a fearless leader. So, but I get to retire for a little while until April, when we have our big celebration and I get to hand out chocolate and sparkly pins. So that's really fun. I love the celebration. It's a continuation of the wonderful spirit that it has been built in the month of February. So what else? I've actually written 2,000 words more on Raoul's book since the challenge ended, which means that Raoul is now over 30K. Woo! So over 30K. Over 80K. Woo! And again, to remind you, I generally write 100,000 word books, although they've been getting longer. You guys may have noticed. Gabrielle's book was very long. Written during the pandemic, nothing to stop me. I just kept going. So a couple people have said, why do you put so much emphasis on word count? And the truth is, it's just a useful way of figuring out how far along you are in a book. I honestly thought I would never finish Raoul's book, but now that I'm at 80,000 words, I'm feeling confident that I will, and I'm even confident that I will finish it by May 1st, because that's when I've scheduled my first editor, my developmental editor. And then I have my copy editor scheduled after her, and then I have my proofreader scheduled after her. So I put everybody on the schedule, which means that I have to finish it by May 1st, and that includes doing a full read through and revising it myself before I even send it to the editors. But word count's also a great way to just motivate yourself. If you say, look, I have to write, and this is what I did with Raoul's book, because as you know, it was hard for me. I don't know why still. I said, I can write 500 words a day on this book. Every day I sat down and wrote, except the days when I gave myself a day off. But every day I sat down and wrote 500 words on this book, whether I wanted to or not. And mostly I didn't want to. And the amazing thing was how fast they piled up. When I started NaNoWriMo, I had almost 50,000 words, which just amazed me. So that's why word count is something writers talk about all the time, and why it's a useful tool. And that's really all it is a useful tool. It doesn't, mean anything other than that. Lynn is here. Hi, Lynn. So good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Okay, on to the Raoul update. Raoul is the book I'm working on now, of course. If anyone has questions, just put them in the comments and I will attempt to answer them. If possible. I probably have a better idea of what's going on now than I did even a month ago. So, interestingly enough, Monday night I wrote a lot of words, but they weren't on the book. What were they? They were planning out, sort of outlining the action sequence that I'm in right now at the end of the book. And that's about as much outlining as I ever do, because as you all know, I am a seat of the pants kind of writer. So I had to spend time working out how I would get from point A to point F, basically. And it's fun to do, but of course sometimes I'll get going on it as I start writing it and realize that's not going to work, and then I have to sort of go back and find a new direction to take it in, which is fine. I mean, that's what happens. But what I really enjoy is so my outline is very bare bones, right? It's really, this action happens and this action happens and this action happens. And then when I get to start writing it, which I started doing last night, I get to add in the fun dialogue and the characters' reactions. And sometimes they surprise me, the characters. They'll do something that I wasn't expecting. And that is the real joy of being close to the end, so that I know my characters really well and I trust them to sort of let them be who they are. And that brings out sometimes new, because they're being subjected to stress in the action sequence. And it'll bring out sort of new aspects of their character, which I love. I also discovered last night that I needed another piece of equipment, and I had to figure out what it was exactly and how to get it there to where they are. And that turned out to be relatively easy, because the wonderful thing is when your hero is a prince, his people can make a phone call and pretty much get anything they want. So it's almost like, he waves a magic wand, or the people who work for him wave a magic wand, and voila, you have what you need. I didn't actually think about that when I started writing about royalty, but it does come in handy, I have to say. Lynn says, it's good to be here. You are looking wonderful. Oh, Lynn, you're so nice. Thank you. You like my tiara? My tiara for finishing Jero Rama, because I feel like a star. So what else? So the other really fun thing I got to do this weekend was talk to my cousin Tony. You would think that wouldn't be exciting, but I enjoy my cousin Tony. But I needed his help, because my heroine, Erica, is landing a helicopter on a yacht. I know nothing about flying helicopters. I've never even been in one, nor do I ever want to be in one, because I hate to fly, and helicopters look particularly terrifying. But Tony flew Blackhawks in the Army, so military helicopters, and I figured he would be a good person to talk to, even though he never landed a helicopter on a yacht, not surprisingly. He obviously knows a lot about flying helicopters, so we had this fascinating conversation where, I asked him a ton of questions, and I'd already written the scene, and sort of, I wanted to check with him, because, I write the scene and then I have all these questions, am I doing this right? Does this make sense? I don't want all the technical details, because, as you know, I'm not writing military thrillers or anything like that. But I want to make sure my characters don't do anything stupid or dangerous or just wrong. So Tony was really helpful with that. And also it just fills in the sort of sensory details, which is really helpful. And let's see. So I was telling a fellow writer about the fact that I had just talked to my cousin about flying Black Hawk helicopters. And she said, wow, you know people who do a lot of interesting things. And I was thinking about that. And of course, what she was referring to was was the helicopter. And also I had a college friend who did rock climbing, and I interviewed him about rock climbing because that's part of this book too. And I realized that that's like one of my favorite things about doing research for the book is talking to people about what they do. And people are so nice that they will take the time to share their experiences and expertise. And I always think about this one time because my now ex-husband, then husband, was horrified that I did this. So we were on vacation in the Caribbean, and we took one of those sunset cruises on a beautiful catamaran. It was lovely. You know, they have drinks and snacks, and it's just lovely. But it was a group cruise, so there were a bunch of other people. It's a big catamaran. There were a bunch of other people on it, and I was writing the VIP Doubles Down at the time, and the heroine in that book is a physical therapist. And so there was a sort of family group with grown-up children, mom and some grown-up children, sitting next to us on the catamaran. And I heard one of her sons talking about what he had been doing as a physical therapist. And so, yes, you guessed it, I inserted myself into that conversation and said, you know, I'm writing this book. Would you be willing to talk to me about being a physical therapist? Not right now, but can I get your phone number or your email address, whichever one you're more comfortable with? So he did, in fact, give me his contact information, and I did have a wonderful phone conversation with him and some emails too, actually, as I kept going in the book and had more questions. And I just think of how nice he was to do that. Total stranger. I mean, the other people I've been talking to for this book, I know them already, but he was a total stranger on vacation, and he was willing to do this. He is in the acknowledgments for the book, of course, and of course my cousin Tony and my friend Reiner from college will also be in the acknowledgments of this book, so look for them. Let's see. Lynn says, Tiara is beautiful. You are a rock star. Aw, thank you. Every now and then I like to feel like a rock star, right? Lynn says, I like the fact that you are fact checking like that. Thank you, Lynn. I think that's really important, you know, even in fiction. Possibly even especially in fiction, that you need to get it right. You need to make it authentic, because that's what makes it an immersive experience. If somebody's reading it going, oh my God, no, they would never do that in a helicopter, then that takes you right out of the story, right? So I need to get it right. Same with rock climbing. You know, that would be an insane thing to do if you were rock climbing. So I try not to do things wrong because I don't want to pull my reader out of the story. Lynn says, how fun. Thank you. Yes, I've done crazy things in the name of research. It's true. I should say I've been willing to talk to people in the name of research. Lynn says it makes the story believable. Exactly. That's what I'm going for. Believability. Because I'm sure you've all had the same experience I have, where somebody does something that you're just like, oh. I have a big problem with horses. I know a lot about horses. You know, I had a pony, and so I spent, you know, years and years in the horse world. And so when people there was this one TV show, I can't remember what the name of it is now, that everybody said, oh, you've got to watch this. It's set on a horse farm. It's all about horses. You'll love it. So I watched the first episode, and they just did so many stupid things that no one who knew anything about horses would do, that I could not watch the show. It just drove me nuts. Even Hidalgo, which is a movie I love, which was, you know, the horse race across the desert in, I forget where it was. And Viggo Mortensen plays the lead, and he has this horse who he loves in the race. And at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, sorry, I apologize if you haven't seen the movie, but spoiler alert, he releases the horse back into the wild at the end of the movie. And the horses, they just have a beautiful shot of the horse galloping away to join his herd of other wild horses. But it made me insane because they left his horseshoes on. Now, no one who was releasing a horse into the wild would leave their horseshoes on. Yes, eventually they will fall off, but not in a, it can actually really injure the horse, particularly like if one falls off and then they're running on 3 horseshoes and what, I mean, there's just a lot of reasons you wouldn't do that. But he loved his horse, so he would know to take the horseshoes off. And that every time I watch that movie, which I love, that makes me crazy. I can barely watch the last scene. So what else do people have to say? Sally says, plus knowing the details helps write the book, of course, makes the characters and emotions authentic. Absolutely, Sally, because you're a writer, so you know that. And it often gives you new ideas about what to do with the characters in the book, which I love. When somebody says, when I'm doing research, sets me off on a different tangent, that's really exciting. Love that. Lynn agrees with you, Sally. And Sally says, and then there's my cat milk story, right? Yes, Sally was horrified because she found out that you're not supposed to give grown-up cats, milk. But in fact, it turns out lots of people, including my veterinarian daughter, give their grown-up cats milk. So it's not actually a hard and fast rule, as it turns out. Lisa, hey! Oh, that Tara sent you. Thank you. Lisa, who just came on, is the person who gave me my beautiful starry tiara. Isn't it pretty? It's so pretty. I love it. And I think it's so fun because it stars, so I'm a star. As Lynn says, I'm a rock star even. I love that. Yes. Thank you, Lisa, so much for my gorgeous tiara. I do enjoy it. So, last but not least, I forgot. I was supposed to hold this up when I was doing my report on Raoul's book, because that's one of the pictures. That's the picture you guys chose that you liked the best for the cover. I got to get working on that cover now that I say that. Okay, so let's talk about sale books, which again, my publisher puts random books on sale every month. I never know why or what they're going to be until right before. So this month, The Place I Belong is on sale. This is the 3rd book in the Whisper Horse series. And I love this book because the Whisper Horse in it is actually a pony. And of course, I grew up with a pony. So Satchmo is the name of the pony. And Satchmo bonds with the son of the hero. This was a very emotional book. I love the emotions in this book because it's father and son, and Hannah Linden, the heroine, is a veterinarian. Obviously I love animals and my daughter's a veterinarian, so a lot of things came together in this book that I enjoy. But it is the 3rd book in the series. All my books are standalone. You don't have to read the first books in the series. It's just more fun if you do. So, and that's on sale for $1.99 on Kindle this month. And then Second to None, which is the first book in the Second Glances series. It's actually a novella, which is why I have it in this weird format, because it's not in print. It's only on Kindle, and it will be 99 cents all this month on Kindle. And this is the book set in with the canine angels. There's a little dog on the cover. This cover's a little wonky because, again, it's not the actual cover. So it has kids and rescue dogs, as well as a hunky billionaire, of course, in it. And that's about all I got. Anybody have any questions? I don't see any questions. No? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I loved having you. I loved chatting with you, as always. And I will see you, next week. My live is at 7 p.m. because I have book club in the afternoon. So I will see you at 7 p.m. next week here on Facebook for Writer Unedited Live. Take care. Love you guys.